the Murphy administration has been laser focused on dealing with climate change the past 4 years and continues to do so. And your Department of Environmental Protection, is at the forefront of that battle.
Yeah, we've got a lot of work to do. We've started a lot of great initiatives, and we've got to keep them moving. This budget will help us to do that. One big area that is incredibly important from the perspective of reducing climate pollutants that are going to worsen the climate change impacts that we already see is our transportation sector. They're the largest source of climate pollution in the state, and it's imperative that we do everything we can to reduce those emissions. And so this budget is going to allow us to invest further in the electrification of the state's fleet of automobiles, a new $30 million investment. And by transitioning our old diesel-powered and gas-powered cars and vans and trucks that the state owns, we'll be able to chip away at those emissions. And at the same time, we're going to invest in the continuation of our offshore wind strategy, building upon investments from the New Jersey wind port, where we're invested in the last couple of years in the building of the first purpose-built wind port in the country, by funding our Wind Institute, which will be a mechanism for facilitating job growth with a focus on equity to make sure that everyone has access to the family-sustaining jobs that our clean energy transition can provide.
This administration has also made removing lead service lines a huge priority, and your department has been at the forefront of that.
Yeah, we have a great need for water infrastructure improvements in the state of New Jersey, and this budget will continue to advance the long-term replacement of lead service lines while we also confront threats from synthetic chemicals in our water. So through the continuing $60 million appropriation in water infrastructure, we're going to leverage additional federal investments through the bipartisan infrastructure law, and also tap the private market through the infrastructure bank to continue building toward a affordable, clean, safe drinking water system in every locality in the state.
Another focus has been the weather results of climate change and how we're seeing more and more kind of weather disasters in the state, the most recent being Hurricane Ida. How has your department been focusing resources on both helping deal with flood mitigation and better prepare some of our vulnerable communities for future disasters, weather disasters?
Yeah, one of the most important things that we do at DEP is protecting public safety from the risks of extreme weather, which we're only increasing, right? New Jersey, sadly, is ground zero for some of the worst impacts of climate change from both a sea level rise perspective along the coast and from chronic fluvial flooding around our major waterways, and even some of the small waterways that have never really flooded before. We saw folks flooded out of their homes as the remnants of Hurricane Ida had struck New Jersey. And so this budget's going to enable us to advance our regulatory reform initiatives that will focus on right-sizing water infrastructure so that we're ready for the storms of the future. It's going to help us to invest in better floodplain management, and through increased appropriations for both flood control and shore protection, allow us to put more resources behind the hard infrastructure that's going to help us as well.